Hello, my name is Stevan Plinck, and I'm a teacher, guru, if you will, of Pukulan Pentjak Silat, Bukti Negara, and Pukulan Pentjak Silat, Serak. What you just witnessed in the previous scene was my interpretation and simulation of an environmental scene in a real-world situation in which I would interpret how Pentjak Silat would be used. The scope of this video is to extract from the scene basic laws and principles of Pentjak Silat, the one that I do. These laws and principles are universal and they're applicable if you understand. Therefore, this is a training tape, an intro tape, something you can actually grasp and comprehend. I want you to look beyond the techniques and find why they really work, find out the underlying expression and the understanding behind the principles. I am grateful to Pendekar Paul de Thouars for his humble patience, guidance, and skill through the years, and in accepting me as his pupil. Thank you very much. What you will see is a pure Silat form. It's not an eclectic form. It is a system. It's not borrowing from other styles and systems and trying to assimilate them. It is complete in itself. Pukulan means hitting. Pentjak means training. Silat means application. Bukti Negara means witness or evidence of a country or continent. And Serak means decoy. And it comes from West Java, Indonesia. This video is not meant to be a history lesson or a lesson in lineage. For I believe that skill is worth 1,000 words, and if my ability wasn't there, my martial arts and my lineage would mean zilch, nothing anyway. So please, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Thank you. What you're witnessing is Bukti Negara, Juru 1. Juru basically is a root movement in which many, many techniques can be derived from. It teaches you to keep your body tight, close, not too rigid, not too relaxed, because you need both rigidity and relaxation in actual combat. What you just witnessed was my assistant, Eric, doing Bukti Negara, Juru 1. Now, there's a lot of principles and laws you can extract from the Jurus, but let me suffice it to say that what you really get out of it is tight motion and a free-flowing idea of what you can do in a pinch. There's no set rules or regulations as to this is how you have to move, or this is what you have to do, or this is the only technique you can derive from any particular motion. There are so many derivatives of what you do that it becomes endless. It just depends on how you feel. Eric, could you come up, please? One of the principles, though, that I do want to explain is just simple backup. When he's applying this motion here, he's doing this, wiping. It looks just like a windshield wiper. But actually what it's teaching you is that both hands are working together. And in other words, this hand does not go into battle without this hand. They have to work together. If he threw a punch, and I shot, and I didn't have backup, he can shoot back. It becomes a slugfest. Go ahead, hit me. Boom. Okay? So what I want to do, now give me that same thing again, okay? See, I have backup. Where this is in the fray of the action also, not separately. So that's one principle that the Juru teaches you. Another principle is keeping center line. You think of yourself as a bow of a ship where water is going to your port side and to your starboard side. But you're anatomically strong. Not stiff, not rigid, but relaxed. So a very basic principle is if he shoots a punch, see, I'm just doing this. Just natural reaction for most people is to cover anyway. All I'm doing is adding a little attitudinal adjustment and moving forward, moving in. So one more time, let's take it on from this side so you can see. He shoots a punch. All I'm doing is just this. I haven't even stepped in yet. Whatever. It's just upper body. Okay. One other principle which is really important is how you shoot an elbow. Okay. Juru 1, especially in Bukti, there's a lot of elbows in it. You got to know how to use them for blocking, for parrying, for hitting. For hitting, it's very important that you have this principle. Pretend you have a marble on the inside of the elbow here. Tighten it. Roll it so it's tight. You want this section here tight, but your delts very relaxed. And that's how you shoot an elbow. Because with this type of idea, you can shoot it fast, quick, and powerful. You don't want to be doing this and that. First of all, it's telegraphed because anything that's powerful takes longer to bring across and execute than something which is more relaxed. So what you want is very relaxed. Very relaxed. And there's no set rule in saying that I have to, one more time, keep hitting with this elbow or at this height. I can drop low, come in on lower. Sorry, Eric, I didn't mean to do that. One more time, please. Okay? See? Very relaxed. Very relaxed. That's how you shoot a Juru elbow. There are a lot of other Jurus, but I can only describe Juru 1. This is very important. Very important. In this upper body section, we're going to be covering a few more principles and laws, but I would like to define laws and principles. Laws are basically elements that you have to deal with. They do not change. Principles, on the other hand, it's your choice whether you want to use them if it's apropos for any particular situation. The Jurus teach us both laws and principles. One of my favorite sayings is that technique does not begat technique. It's understanding that begats technique. So if you have understanding of laws and principles, you can make it work. If you do not, and all you're doing is copying a technique, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. Lauren, could you come in, please? One of the first principles I want to cover is cutting the line with a particular technique, which is called the waiter stance. Basically, if you look at the waiter stance, just stay right there, and I'm not doing anything. This is here, the hand positioning. You see, first of all, the backup that I explained earlier. You also see that I will try to have taken care of my center line in relation to my opponent's center line. Another thing is that by having my hands together and in close proximity to one another, I have a lot of tools available. Elbow, elbow, hand, hand, and able to switch. One of the first techniques which is very applicable for the waiter stance when he throws a punch slowly is I come up. See how I'm taking center line? I come up and I guide in. Take it from the center. Right up, and in. A little faster speed so you can see that it works. Right there. And in. Same time, I could have, slowly, I could have, yes, the hits are there. Hits are always there. But notice where my control is, behind the elbow. If you try controlling here, he's got two joints to take care of my attempt of controlling. If I go to the root, he has no choice but to either move out of the way or try and back it up with another weapon. One more time. So my backup is here. That's my control. And, okay, let's say, for instance, he's a faster puncher. He's faster with your upper body than you are. What you want to do is very important, again, to take care of center line. You can be slower, but if you take care of center line, things seem to take care of themselves. I want you to give me the jab and a cross. All right? Please. There. I did in one motion the same time that it took him to do several motions. Because what I'm doing is I am taking a principle and making it work for this situation. One more time. Right there. Notice my elbows are down, they are not up. Here, I'm open to all sorts of attack. Down, I can control, and I can block and parry. Let's take it on this side. Thank you. One more time. Right there. Okay? Very relaxed. So that's basically the idea of cutting the line. Another principle with cutting the line is if I take, let's say, one angle, this one here, taking it from my lower right to my upper left, and I become very proficient with this angle, I can block with it, I can hit with it. I know that his tools are going to have to cross that center line where I'm crossing in order to come to me. So if I have an attitude of really taking care of that angle, I will intersect his attack. So whereas the waiter stance worked from, let's say, from lower left to upper right, the same thing, come in one more time, please. I can take it this way. You see what I'm doing? I'm taking my back up, go ahead, my back up, and in, this way. One more time. Back up, and in. No, hit me, please. Back up, and in. See, so it doesn't matter whether I'm coming this way, this way, this way, or this way. I'm over-exaggerating, but the point is laws and principles do not change if you understand what you're doing. So it's very important that you don't just take care of the technique, but you understand the laws and principles. In fact, I'd rather that you don't try to copy me as far as technique goes. It'd be better for you to make it work for you with the understanding that I'm giving you. Okay, another principle is that if you've hit, then you've blocked. It goes in line with covering center line. It goes in line with taking the angle. If he shoots a punch and I shoot a punch, we have to intersect. There's no two ways about it. We have to intersect. And by that intersection, I can both block and hit at the same time. It's just a principle. It's not going to work all the time, but there is a point in time that it will work. So you need to understand that. Again, this portion of the tape is just concerning ourselves with the upper body. Don't worry too much about the lower body right now. I want to backtrack a little bit, and I want to explain the timing in which you would apply your tools. Now in Silat, it's very important that you use a proper tool, the proper distance, or appreciation of distance, and at the proper time. And you have to learn that slowly. You can't learn it all at once and say, hey, come in here, go ahead, go for it. It's not going to work. What you need to do, okay, is first of all, you need to know what distance am I going to start training at, okay? This distance, kicks. Maybe a jab if he likes to shuffle and come in with a jab. But you need to understand that from the get-go. So what distance do you want to train at? How I like to teach my students is, come a little closer, about right there, right here. And this is usually what happens anyway, after all the verbiage, and then the whack comes, right? So what you want to do is first of all, have your tools work before you even move your body. Why? Because this is faster than this. Let me give you an over-exaggeration. This is slow-mo. If he shoots a punch and I move with my body first, then my tool, you see how I'm behind the power curve? What you want to do, again, slowly is move tools first to make way for your body. It's a very important principle. You need to understand that, because if you don't, you're going to get bobbed. Put it lightly. So one more time, tool first, regardless of how you're blocking, okay? The way you want to block becomes your own technique, that's fine. But the principle is, use your tool first to make way for your body. Okay? Another principle is, once I do come in, I have backup. Backup. This is here. Because if I block, he wipes, I want to be able to control. See? I use backup, the idea of backup, to take care of his response to my answer. This punch is a question, I gave an answer. He responds, I take over. This is very free-flowing. It doesn't have to be just like that. That was just a technique. Same thing could have happened like this. It came up underneath, see? Underneath. Underneath. So the idea of backup is very important in Juru. Backup. When you're doing the Juru, the tools work together, not separately. When I'm shooting, backup, backup. A lot of people see this motion here. What's this? How can you use that? Well, you know, you have to have a backup for everything, whether it's a kick, whether it's a punch, whether it's a headbutt, whether it's a knee, or whether it's an elbow. Juror 1 teaches a backup for an elbow. If he shoots a punch, slow, I shoot an elbow, he's going to try and block. See what I do? Take it out of the way so I can shoot it again. Another principle to reiterate, backup, backup, backup. You have backup with everything you do. If I shoot a punch, he blocks, there, I just backed up. Right? You remember this motion in Juror 1? Back up again. Back up, back up. Very important. So he shoots a punch, right there, see? Again, talking about appreciations of distance and using the proper tool at the proper time. And it's more of an idea of ordering your response or attack or defense. And it has to be in order. If you aren't in order, it's in disorder, and that doesn't work. If he, again, we're just working with leads for the camera to see. Nothing exaggerated or anything. He comes in with a punch. Look at respond. Yes, it could have been a hit. Yes, it could have been a hit. Collapse and move in. What I mean by collapse is I'm very relaxed. I'm not doing this. See how I'm pushing? Because remember, this was made for small people against large people. If he was a 300-pound biker on Angel Dust, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in. See? We're in tight, but because I use my tool first and then I learn to relax. Yes, at this point in time, I could have angulated, could have used my tight range weapons, long range weapons before I come in. I've purposely divided this tape into upper body and lower body because they each have their distinct value, and at the same time you need to research them separately before you can combine them to make it look fluid. What a lot of people seem to do is they seem to combine both upper and lower body together, but it takes them longer to understand what each is capable of doing. They seem to learn quicker how they can work in conjunction, but separately they do not seem to understand their total value. So in this portion, I'm going to cover lower body. One of the main principles that you will see works is base angle leverage. That's not even a principle, excuse me. Let's scratch that. That is a law. Base angle leverage. You'll see that with this formula, base angle leverage, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you can always relate it back to that. You have to either have a base, you either have an appropriate angle, or an appropriate leverage, or a combination of at least the two. If you have base, angle, and leverage all together, it'll work first time every time, if you understand, big F. If you have 2 out of the 3, let's say you just have angle and leverage, or angle and base, or base and angle, they will work also. But 1 out of the 3 will never work. An example I always give is, especially with something that you want to generate power from. I was a big fan of Muhammad Ali when I was growing up, and I remember the phrase, sting like a bee and dance like a butterfly. Whenever he did that, he was amassing points by moving back and jabbing and everything. And in a sportive sense, that was great. But the problem was he didn't really have a base, and he didn't really have a good angle. All he had was that leverage, the jab. So points-wise, it was great, but for actual combative reasons, it would not work. For purposes, it wouldn't work. So now I'm going to describe a footwork pattern that's called beset. Beset means foot drag, where I'm dragging the foot behind the person's leg. It's almost a trip. and I'm going to be applying the formula base, angle, and leverage. Aaron, can you come here, please? Thank you. We'll do it slow first, for his sake. Okay, shoot a punch. Okay. Again, all the principles earlier of the upper body segment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step and get a good base. The first part of my formula, BAL, balance acronym, base. Next thing I want to do is I want to grab a proper angle. Remember, this was made for small people against large people, so you don't use strength and you don't use power. You don't even try to use speed, because that comes naturally once you understand what you're doing. Good base, good angle. Now notice, I'm intersecting his baseline. If this is his baseline, right here, from rear foot to front foot, that line you see an imaginary line, I intersect it perpendicularly with my angle, he's going to go down. Doesn't matter how big he is or how small he is, and it doesn't matter what handle I have on him. Makes no difference. So I got a good base, I have a good angle, very relaxed. You'll see right there. Don't have to apply much. This one here, I use leverage. Leverage is usually a push or a hit, where angle is more of a pull. So I apply leverage, and now I have him in a formula or in a position where it's going to be uncompromising and uncomfortable for him. I'll take a little foot drag, and he's down. Okay, one more time. Relax. Good base, but relax, not rigid. Always relax. Weight forward, forward, angle, little bit of leverage, and a little foot drag. Okay. Base, angle, leverage, foot drag. Now this doesn't matter where you do it, inside or outside, it really makes no difference. But the key also is, when you punch, is not to go back with a strong force. Yes, I have this position, but he's got the control. You don't want to be in this position. That's the wrong answer. What you want to be in is this position. See, weight forward. Weight forward. Just like Juror 1 showed you, weight forward. You don't want to be catching up to an initiative. You want to have the initiative. So you're up here, base, angle, leverage, little foot drag. Okay? Now let's break up the formula. I'm going to use, excuse me a second, I'm going to use base and angle. Okay? Base, angle. Sorry, you okay? Yeah. Okay, that's breaking up the threesome, base and angle. I'll use base and leverage to give you an idea. Base, leverage. Could have been a hit, could have been whatever you want it to be. Now, I'm going to do angle and leverage without base. And I always say this, you can be doing the Irish jig and it'll still work, because there's a formula. A formula works. So I'm going to be doing the Irish jig, and it's just an example, but it works. I used angle and leverage to take him down. And you can use any combination of that formula. What haven't I done? I think I've done it all, right? Okay. Again, I have a good baseline. Remember, I'm going to have angulation after the base, and I want to be sure that I use opposite levers with my lower leg. This leverage helps, of course, it's really a hit. Okay? If he's tough and going down, what you might want to do is you want to tenderize him first. See, across the hip. So what I did basically was I applied the formula. I applied base, angle, leverage, and then I added a little thing to it. I used opposite levers to make the foot drag with a beset complete. So if I'm going to drag him in the opposite direction of the angulation, so I'm pulling perpendicular to his baseline, and I drag. All right. To continue with lower body, we've covered the beset, which is a foot drag. Next, we're going to cover a sweep called sapu. Now, base angle leverage plays an important part in that too. But another aspect or principle I want to add on is you want to move one base at a time. Let me go into that a little bit before you come on, Eric. One base at a time, I mean, you have to have one base stationary in order to generate power from. If I'm going to touch this ceiling here, or try and touch the ceiling, won't be able to, but I can try, I need a base in order to jump up from, to generate force in order to touch. If my base is moving, I won't be able to get that momentum upwards. And the same thing when you're moving laterally or with an opponent, you have to have one base. Now, the bases that are divided in silat are lower base or footwork, legs attached, and shoulders. So if I'm moving both my lower base and my shoulders at the same time, it's great for evasion, but not to generate power. Would you come forward now, Eric? A good way to explain this is just to show you. Okay, now for sapu, you come in slowly first. Again, principles, they don't change. I'm just going to be applying them again. I come in for the sweep. Again, I have base, good base, and I'm going to apply angle and leverage. But look what I'm doing here. I moved in with my lower base. My upper base did not move. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I kept straight, and that's all I did. Forward momentum. The reason for that is if this base is moving and I get jammed, I can still generate power. If I'm moving both bases, he'll be able to cut my angle, and there's nothing I can do. It would be like a larger momentum ball hitting a smaller sphere in space, and the smaller sphere would just ricochet off. That's exactly what would happen. So how sapu works is one base at a time, step in. Okay? Stationary. This is moving. Next, since I got a good base, I'm going to apply leverage, and the angle is with the foot. Now look, I don't push him away because what am I doing? I'm planting weight in his rear leg. So if I sweep this, see, what I do is I want to keep him towards me. See? One more time. Slowly. Good. Whatever you want to do, it makes no difference. But good base. In tight. Forward. See what I did? Would you come in again, please? And control, one base at a time, relax, good strong base, but relax. I'm going to grab his other shoulder here and see where the shoulders are in line. That's usually the direction you want to push him. Okay. One more time. And whatever you do, coming in, whatever. Okay. Then you apply opposite levers again. So I'm applying upward leverage and lowered angle. One more time, work through it again. Again, I'm going to go through all the principles which I went through earlier in the tape. Tool before my body, one base at a time, forward, good base, but relaxed, not crashing, being sensitive, feel, 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 feel. See, controlling the whole way. Thank you. And of course, what you can do on the left side, you can do on the right side, it makes no difference. Same thing. Again, I'm not moving my upper body. See? Time, please. Thank you. Do this slow. With everything I'm showing you, do it slow, do it relaxed. It should feel like butter. If your opponent that you're working with or the partner that you're working with, if he feels too much strength, you're doing it wrong. Too much power, you're doing it wrong. It should be very relaxed, calm. I always tell my students, pretend that you have your arms and your legs are noodles. Very relaxed. That's the best way, a good foundation to start to generate power. Okay, now that we've gone through upper body and lower body in sequence, we're going to be combining. You're going to see that one of the attitudes, the principles in Silat is that what you can do on the left side, you can do on the right side. What you can do high, you can do low. What you can do inside, you can do outside. So in other words, it's not so much technique as it is understanding in what you're doing. I could take any particular technique and make it work in a lot of different situations with a little variation. As long as you understand, you can make that variation. If you don't understand, then all you have is a technique that works in one specific situation, and that's it. And that's what I want everybody to stray away from. I don't want that. I would rather have more understanding of a simple technique than a lot of different techniques which you can only use for those specific situations. Can Aaron, would you come in, please? All right. Now this is how the principle of just combining everything works. Granted that you do understand some of the basics. Okay, Aaron, would you come in, please? Yeah, I could have hit and everything. I'm just showing you basically how the body mechanics works. One more time what I'm doing. See? Take center line. That's what, come back to it. Thank you. This is what automatically would happen. See, he'd be going this way. That's when you... What I did was I took opposite levers. One more time slowly. Took center line. Waited for him to come in. Elbow. And I'm pulling in this direction. And with my knee, I'm uprooting. You okay?
Yes, sir.
I hit my knee. Okay. Just come with something else, please. Another principle, instead of what I didn't do is this. All the way out of the way. Okay? If he's sensitive, he's going to... I want you to counter that. Okay? See? That's exactly what will happen. Exactly what will happen. So you have to take control of the situation. Okay? See? Take control of the situation. Come in again, please. Don't dummy for me.
Yes.
Next time, I want you to come in. Thank you. You okay now?
Yeah, that was a good shot.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine, I'll look too. Whatever you want to get. Okay. Now how this works with upper body when I'm combining. Work it this way. This is my leverage point. Off balance. One more time. Controlling center line. Just a few examples of what you can do once you start combining and you understand base angle leverage, cutting the line, controlling center line, using the waiter stance, back up, one base at a time, using inside and out. Now the same situation coming against this that I did here, come on the outside, see? Makes no difference. Hold on. At this point in time, I'd like to cover weapons. Any study of Silat is not complete without an understanding of weapons. Since Silat is a weapons-based martial art, most, if not every technique you can do, empty hand, you can do with a weapon. There are a lot of weapons that Silat has fortes in, but I would like to cover the knife. The knife is very applicable where we live and this time. What you just saw was just a little free flow exercise of high line and low line coverage. It's very important. This is a principle, especially when you're empty hand against a weapon, is you have to cover a high line and low line. The reason being you do not want to trade a strike with an empty hand against a strike with a weapon, because a weapon will kill. It's lethal. Would you come in, Richard, please? Okay. Typical example of what I mean by high line and low line. Just come up with very exaggerated now for the camera. Okay, let's say I blocked here and I came in with a strike to the groin or what have you. There, we traded blows. I got the worst end of it. What you have to do is you have to control before you want to hurt the assailant. You have to control. Big C, it's very important. You need to control the weapon's arm, hand, whichever limb is welding the weapon. You need to control it. If you do not control it, it's out of control. If it's out of control, you're dead. Simple. So what happens is when I'm here, I take low line and high line. You see what I'm doing? This is high line, this is low line. Look at the way my hands work. I'm showing back, back. Just like when you're doing the juror, say you aren't showing your vitals. Again, one more time. If he retracts, that's what's cut. If I did this, retract, yeah, I might as well run away and hold on to this because I'm going to bleed out. So what you want is this. Now, if I have high line, like I said, I want to take low line. How this works is before he retracts to feed me another one, I take, low line. Very relaxed. This is a disarm. Right here, this is a disarm. I have high line and low line. At this point in time, I can roll and take him either behind, or I can roll and take him to the front. Okay? Very important, high line, low line. One more time. High line, low line. Becomes from this direction. High line, low line. Or high line coming in tighter, low line. Doesn't matter what tool you use, but the principle has to be there. You can also, from here, from this point, do this. See? All right? It doesn't matter how you do it, but you need high line, low line. If you come in with a low line this way, again, see here? This. Not like this. See? If it's going to pass your body, which I don't like to do a technique like that, but if you have to, you want to bring it in this hard. Bring it in. That is a disarm, because what happens is you break it and control it away from the body. Coming in from this position, again, high line, low line. This way. One time. Low line, high line. I'm exaggerating, he's exaggerating. That's the best way to check and tell. Okay? So it's very important that you take care of high line and low line. Okay, now with that principle, everything else that you saw previously in this tape you can use. Elbows, knees, all of the principles and laws. So if he came in, there, I took care of high line and low line. At this point in time, I could have, yes, block, cut, whatever, but you always want to take the knife away. Up again, Rich. Okay, this is not an extensive coverage of knife or weapons, but it is something that you can consider, that everything you do in Silat open hand, you can do with a weapon.